Who wants to see if I can make a bow out of these hickory boards? I don't even know what I'm doing. This will be my first board bow. But if you want to see what happens, stick around. Well, welcome to my office. I bought these boards, I think they're right. I've been talking to a buddy who's made 1,000 bows. He told me what to look for, but he can only tell you so much over the phone. You can only read so much and see so much. There's not that many resources online about it either. They tell you just look for a straight piece of wood, straight grain that runs from end to end. So as long as the grain doesn't run out, you're going to be okay. But it's hard to find the absolute perfect board. You have to look through them all. So I did the best I could. It looks like the grain goes through here 99% of the time through these boards here on the side. And then you got to look at the end too. So you look at the end, and as if it's sawn from the tree, just like a stave. If you're looking at it, it can be made different ways. As long as the grain is the same through the top. As long as you have parallel lines basically, or lines going all the way through the top, and the grain isn't running out the side, because that's going to make a part where it wants to break. Well, I suppose just pick a board, lay it out and go. I'll give you a closer look at the boards I have first. This one looks really good to me, where if you look at the edge of the sapwood, that's pretty straight. That's a good indicator all the way down through. And man, this one is some tight grain. You can see it through the paint here. Just barely. But there's a good indicator on the other side as well. There's also no knots in this wood. So you got kind of a crown there, real tight. So let's start with this one. So talking with some friends on a Facebook group and reading the Bowyer's Bible a little bit more, that book, trying to wrap my head around it. But you want parallel grain all the way down so it doesn't run out and break there. So I'm looking good on this board, and the top is what people aren't liking and what it's looking like. But on the edge, if you have a whole bunch of lines straight and parallel with each other going down, that's what you're looking for. This part right here, so that's a little bit of a grain run out on the top, because the way that the tree has been cut, the way this board has been cut, it's been curved like this. So I'm thinking if I put it through the planer and take off a 64th or a 32nd at a time, just to see what it looks like. And then maybe get some of this grain straightened out a bit, because looking at the edge right here and how it goes, it may work out. So I'll try that on both sides. So you can see the edge, and you can see how the grain goes this way, the cup, or up and down. So if I cut into this a bit, we'll see what it looks like. So on this side, it's cupped down and then up. And so this is what originally made me choose the board, was this pretty straight line that we have right here. And you got this heartwood and sapwood. So I think I'm gonna cut this in half, make two bows out of it, And even though there's this sapwood and heartwood transition right here, I think it'll be okay. So this is gonna be a learning experience, but this grain goes nice and straight all the way down. That's a good indicator. The grain is nice and straight all the way along here. So all we can do is go for it. So here's another good indicator of the grain, that it's going pretty straight all the way down. It's hard to find one that's perfect, but it's not going and it's running 90 degrees off. So I think there's a good chance with this one. So we have our handle section. So we're going to go out, we have our 1-inch handle. We're going to go out to our fade, make an angle out to our fade. Then when we make our bow, these edges won't be so abrupt. They'll be a little bit more rounded. So again, this is 2.5 inches. I've seen people go as wide as 3 inches. And I'm trying to use as much of this board as I can. So we'll go out to the fade. I'm going to update this line here. And our limb tips will go 1/4 inch on it either side of the center. Nice smooth taper there. So that looks pretty good. Let's cut this end off. Cut this end off and do the same thing over here. So here's our layout. 1/2 inch tip going down to 2.5 inch limb width. We're going to make a nice smooth taper. And then a 1-inch handle. Smooth taper into the handle there. And then same thing on the other side. So for time purposes, I'm just going to cut this out on the bandsaw. Here it is, pyramid style bow. Now to get closer to these lines, I'm going to use my rasp. Now I couldn't quite get around this knot right here, so one thing I do know is you want to leave some wood around a knot so it doesn't want to break in that spot. Once you use your round rasp to smooth this out a bit, you can use your scraper because there's still some saw marks in here, so if you hold it at about 45-degree angle or so, it'll help you get those saw marks out. Instead of, if it's 90 degrees to it, it'll want to chatter down it, so that's why you want to angle it. That same technique works well with the draw knife. So it just so happens that the piece I cut off is just the right length to glue onto my handle to make this section stiffer. So I can either cut this out now and glue it on, or just glue it on just like this, cut out later. So I think I'm going to do that, glue that on, make everything nice and secure, then we'll shape everything afterwards. Here's our board for our board bow. Everything's looking pretty good to me. We have grain running nice and straight down the sides. This is a line I made to take wood off. So I went to 5/8 here, down to 1/2 inch up here, so it tapers down this way. But when you do a pyramid bow like this, it's going to be pretty even, and you're going to take off more wood down here than, and it's not going to be as much of a taper. Because it's wider here, it's going to store more energy, so it doesn't have to be as thick. Glued this board on. Now we need to cut that out draw knife this out, and then cut some nocks in and get it on the tillering tree. Let's cut the handle out. Just find something round with a pretty big radius on it and go from the top part of your handle down to about where you made your mark down there. It just makes a nice sweeping curve. That's all you need to do. Now just follow both lines with your rasp or a chisel. Make sure your chisel is bevel side down. Cut off the edges. Take off the edges first with your draw knife, the 2 outside edges, and then work the middle. So make everything nice and flat and even, and then before you start doing a bunch of bending, round over these edges on the back. The wood is a lot stronger when the edge is rounded over, so one of these splinters or one of these grain lines won't want to lift up. Once you get the edges rounded off, take the bow off. It's looking a lot better now, looking more like a bow. And then check the bend, check the floor tiller. It looks even. Looks even there. This side bends a little bit more, so I need to take more wood off on this side. And I can see that this is a little bit thicker. So we're back with the board bow. Everything's looking good so far. Now the thing that has me concerned is this grain run out right here. But for the most part, everything is parallel all the way down this way. Nice and straight through the sides here. But this is the main thing that we want, nice and straight end for end. And then these are pretty straight end for end as well. So that's looking good. So once this is strung up, I was able to get it up to a nice brace height right now, right about 4 inches. It's looking nice and even. And it's still stiff. Now remember, we started at 5/8 and went down and tapered down this way. But the way this design is supposed to work, this pyramid style is supposed to be consistent the whole way down. So next time I'm just going to start with that and then tiller it down that way. Now with the other style of American flat bow, that's supposed to slightly taper down from one end to another. So just one of these is supposed to slightly taper down from one to another towards the tip. So a little bit thicker towards the fade, taper down towards the tip. Let's put this on the tree. The tiller's looking nice and even. still need to take some wood off. It's still too stiff. So at this point, I want to recurve these tips, and then we will take off more wood. So I'm going to taper these sides just a little bit more to reduce the tiller and to reduce the mass on the tips, which will make the bow faster. So I'm just eyeballing it just to take a little bit off, making it as a guide right here. And I'm going to go about 3/8 for the tip instead of a little over a half up here. Make sure you round off the edges too. Otherwise that's gonna want to raise up some splinters if there's a sharp edge. I've made that mistake before. Ah, look at this right here. This strung it up, pulled it, snap, started to break. Don't even really want to hold it right now. Limb tips are narrower. Everything's looking good now. Tiller's pretty good. Strings aligned with the tips right there, which is what it's supposed to be. So the string's in line, the two tips are in line with the handle, the center of the handle. And now let's recurve the tips. Clamp it up. Put a mark right where the tip is so you can do that on the other side. And now we need to start heating her up. But first, let's put on a little bit of oil. This will help keep it from scorching and help the heat to absorb. Heat it from the sides. Don't scorch the back. And if you heat it all from the belly, those wood fibers will want to lift up right there. So you just want to heat it up evenly. So a C-clamp is good to put down first. They're a lot stronger than these quick clamps. That's not good. Sort of crack in that top ring there. Might be able to fix that. Might be able to work it out. Looks like just the top. We'll see. Well, it's cooled off. Let's take this off and see how it looks. It's a little one. So we started to pull apart the fibers here. So I think we have enough wood right here on the side. I wanted to leave a little extra. Make sure that it stays stiff. This is what it's tillered to. So we should be able to remove that little crack, that little part of the wood, and be okay. We'll find out. Well, hickory is not responding well to heat bending. I cracked the limb here. Just wanted to crack. That's what other people said it does too. You can put a piece of flashing over the back here, a thin piece of metal to help keep all the splinters down. But just got too hot and cracked there. This side's pretty good. Once again. Side is close to similar, but it just didn't want to bend. I had this knot here. It's hard to get enough heat in there. So I can either take this wood off the bottom here and then glue on another piece. So some of this bend I made last time on here pulled out along with the curve on this, so I'm going to heat it back up, bend it into position. We needed to bend this more anyway. Try and get that to match up with this side. Glue joint looks good. Well, that didn't do much. Probably put this over the kettle. And then do a little bit more dramatic of a bend with the other form because of the bounce back, the spring back of the wood. There we go. That'll be pretty close to working. Glue joint looks pretty good. Let's cut these off, both sides, sand it down, and see if we can get a string on this thing. Let's cut some knocks in. So we were pretty much tillered when I started, but I'd like to get a string on there, see how the tiller looks, see if we need to adjust anything, especially with these recurves in here now. But it looks pretty good. The grain raised a bit from getting wet and drying out while it was being bent over the pot of boiling water. So I'm going to sand that down, smooth it out, and then get a string on it. Okay, let's string it. String it for the first time since I recurved the tips. Oh! Oh. When you recurve, it makes a lot higher early draw weight, but the resulting draw after that is pretty smooth. So 5.5 to the top of the string, and then I'm a 1/16 off, so 5 7/16 here on this side. So we're not even. I'll probably want to take off a few scrapes on this side, but let's pull it a little bit and then look. Ooh, ooh, yeah, we're heavy too. So Let's put it on the tree, weigh it out. This left tip looks a little bit weaker. Hope it's not pulling out, but we're pretty stiff. We got some wood to work with. 30, 35. So I don't want to pull it too hard right now because I don't want to mess up this tiller any. So the difference right here, if I pull it too hard, I'm going to be chasing both sides for a while, and I've done that before. Let's figure out where I need to take off some wood. So we got our tiller pretty close right now. That's right about 5 1/4 and right at 5 1/4 on both sides. And we've been removing wood back and forth. Let's see it so you guys can see the tiller of it. It's heavy still. It's probably 55 or 60 pounds, probably close to my draw length. So I want to shoot it in a little bit more. Want to sand it, see if that takes a couple pounds off, see how it feels. But I want to shoot it a little bit more, and I'm just short drawing it and shooting, maybe going to 22, 24 inches. And that helps stress the limbs or break them in a bit. And so you'll notice, like, you take some wood off, bring it to the tillering tree, stress it a bunch, and then sometimes when you go and shoot it, the tiller will change even more because the limbs are under more stress. So it's a good idea, take some wood off, shoot it a bit, take some wood off, and then go from there. So I'm going to shoot this some more, sand it a bit, and then we're going to be close to finishing. Maybe we'll take 5 or 10 more strokes off of each limb, but that'll do a drastic amount at this stage of the game. On taking probably that amount would take at least 1 to 2 pounds off of your draw weight, if not more. So you want to be careful, and it's a good idea, even at this point, if you have some calipers, to go ahead and measure the different spots. So if you're real close, and if you see one spot that's, say, 0.02 of an inch, like right there I'm at 0.45, 0.44. So 0.01 of a difference, 0.45. And then from this side, 0.45. So say there's been a couple times where I'm at 0.49 and then 0.46 or 0.47. So I take a little bit of wood off there and doing a little bit of micro tillering while still checking and shooting after that. So it's a good idea to go slow, put it down, until you get, when you're getting real close like this. Let's shoot it a bit. Shoots nice, nice and fast. Nice. I have big, heavy 650 grain carbon arrows here, so they're going to shoot a little slower than one that's almost half that. So 325. A lot of people shoot 350 grain, 375 for target practice, and so you can get upwards of 200 feet per second with those on some bows. But these, not going to be going quite that fast, but the energy behind them is unreal. Nice. It's been a couple months of shooting this bow, and my beard is a couple months longer. Everything that went into this bow was pretty tough, actually, as far as not a normal aspect of the bow build. It's not normal to mess up these tips and then glue on another piece of wood. But it's an option, and we learned from it. It was fun. Also, something that wasn't entirely clear in the video was I put these tips over a pot of boiling water or simmering water for about 15 minutes and then bent those tips back. So what that does, it's not steaming it, but it's giving it a slight amount of water right there and help keep it from drying out. So as I was using the heat gun, it was just, the wood was a little too thick, and I dried out the wood, tried to force it too much, and the top part cracked. So that just happens. Some woods work better with dry heat versus others. But putting it over a pot of water is generally pretty safe. It works well. This thing is shooting nice. I'm happy with it. It could be the one to shoot an elk. I don't know. I'm gonna keep making them, see what I think. But until next time, keep surviving. Oh. Right there. Would this kill an elk? I'll kill an elk. I'll kill an elk.